Hold on for a moment because I want to bring in our strategy session to discuss what's happening in Libya right now. Joining us, our CNN political contributor, the Democratic strategist Paul Begala. Also joining us, the former Bush White House press secretary, the Republican strategist Ari Fleischer. Paul, and Hala's going to continue in the questioning as well. But Paul, the critics of the president are accusing him of dithering while people in Libya die.
Well, that is the sort of thing that, of course, politicians are free to do when they don't have the responsibility to make these life or death decisions. I mean, I think most Americans, I certainly know this from the polling data, want their president to be very deliberate about this. They're not eager to rush into a combat mission in Libya, which is, as Secretary Gates, the defense secretary, has pointed out, exactly what a no-fly zone would be. I think that those people are to be respected, particularly Senator McCain, who is a man who, when he was a pilot, flew into combat and was shot down for our country. So they're serious people, and they're to be respected. And Gloria's reporting is right. The people I talked to in the administration say that a no-fly zone and these other options are on the table. They also hasten to add that we have already passed some very tough sanctions, including an arms embargo through the UN. That needs to be enforced. We've already frozen $30 billion of Libyan assets, Gaddafi assets, which may be the largest asset forfeiture in American history. And now the president was reportedly on the phone today with the British Prime Minister David Cameron, looking to see what international support he can build for this variety of options.
Ari, is all that good enough?
No, it's not. But I do have a fair amount of sympathy for any chief executive who has to make a decision about the use of the military. It's not an easy call, Wolf, and I will grant that. But I think the president has done two things wrong that I wish he had done differently. One is when he had the phone call with Chancellor Merkel of Germany and he said Gaddafi's got to go. He said it in private, and then he had a White House spokesman inform the press. That should have been a public statement by the president, which would have given cheer to the Libyan people to know that the American president is on their side. He missed that moral moment. The second is with this no-fly zone. It's a moral obligation now. I think we will be forever regretful if Gaddafi engages in a slaughter on the streets. I also think once he makes the decision and comes up with even a limited no-fly zone, which is militarily all we're talking about, there will also be a cheer from the Libyans. America is on their side. And I think that would be a welcome moment in this world in our relations with the Arabs. I think he's being too timid. He can do more. I have a bit of understanding for it, but he needs to do more.
All right, guys, stand by for a moment. Hala and I are going to be back in a moment. We're going to continue this conversation. We're also going to go back to Tripoli. We're going back to Benghazi. We're going to the border. Much more of our special coverage when we continue. We're back with Paul Begala and Ari Fleischer. Hala Garani's here. She's got a question for you guys. Hala?
Ari, I have a question for you. European leaders, and you mentioned the U.S. should act quickly, that sort of leave this for history to decide how dreadful it got in Libya. But European leaders have been very clear. They don't want to act outside of the UN framework. Should the United States follow that European lead with its partners?
I think we need to come up with whatever coalition can get the job done. And it won't just be the United States. Missions that are basically moral and humanitarian like this, we'll have Italy, we'll have Malta, we'll have the United Kingdom, we'll have several other nations with us. If we wait for the United Nations to act, we may be waiting months and months. The Libyan people don't have months and months.
And Paul Begala, as we await to go back to Tripoli, and we're going to go back there in just a couple of moments, you've seen this president make decisions, not only right now, the decisions he's making on Libya, the decisions he made on Egypt, but also on a lot of other issues. He's a very cool customer, if you will, and he's very deliberate. Some say that's an advantage. Others say, you know what, not necessarily.
Right. I think most people like the fact that their president is a calm and reasoned person, and that he's examining every option. I mean, he's got, by all accounts, a first-rate defense secretary in Secretary Gates and a top-flight military officer in Admiral Mullen. They testified before Congress, very much pouring cold water on an aggressive military option in Libya, maybe in part because we've got two big wars going already that are taxing our military to the limits. And the other thing I think that ought to be injected into this is the realistic reality that a no-fly zone will not resolve this situation. We saw this way. I've served in the Clinton administration, and we had a UN-sanctioned no-fly zone, Operation Deny Flight, in 1993, and it was enforced. And then we had UN protective forces in, and then we had close air support, and the mission creeped and creeped. And you know what? We still had the slaughter at Srebrenica. 8,372 Bosnians slaughtered by Serbian paramilitary forces under Ratko Mladic. the no fund is not going to stop ground assets, which really seem to be the bulk of Colonel Gaddafi's forces, from enacting a slaughter if that's in fact what they're capable of doing. We saw that at least in Bosnia. I think President Obama is very aware of that history. All
right, guys, we're going to leave it right there. I know you disagree on this issue, but we'll have plenty of opportunities down the road to continue this discussion. Hala Garani, thanks very much for joining us here in the Situation Room. Always good to share the worldwide resources of CNN International and CNN for our viewers here in the United States and around the world. We'll do this again, this story not going away.